right. All right. Wait for some people to get in here. We are getting ready to start the live readings. 2 books behind me. Should be an exciting evening. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time. Kind of got that hidden off to the side over there. It's a good way to do it. Yes. Huh. No sound detected. That should be a good thing, technically. Now, when people get in here, I'll make sure they can hear me. Let's just check the sound settings. Hello, hello. Getting ready to start this 7 o'clock live reading. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me just fine, that the audio quality is good. Am I loud enough in the microphone? All right, I'll bring this up here so it's kind of out of the way. Nice and simple. All right, we are getting some people started. Just a reminder, this is our October 26th live reading of the 2 books behind me. Demon's Choice by Jasmine Wallace and Remnant by K.R. Solberg. Oh, perfect. All right, I just want to make sure, I want my voice to be as clear as possible when we do this reading, so that way everybody can hear what I am reading. I don't want to feel like I'm having to yell or scream or anything like that, but I'll wait for a couple more people to come on in. So I've got this live on TikTok right now, and I am doing YouTube live for the recording. I've also set it up to go to Twitter today, not Twitch. But we'll be live streaming on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube live. So hopefully expand our reach as much as possible. And at some point after this, I will be adding it to the website. Speaking of the website, just for anybody who is curious, I already have this page up on my website. It is active and available. If you simply go to the author live reading page, scroll down to the bottom, you'll find our October 26th for Jasmine Wallace and K.R. Solberg. Both books are up here. Each one contains a link to get to the author, and if the book is available, the link to get there as well. So please, I encourage everybody to visit the website. If you like what you hear, support the author, follow them on all social media, purchase a copy of their book if you like it. And just a reminder, the first book that I'll be reading is Demon's Choice by Jasmine Wallace. And on October 30th and 31st, it will be free on Kindle. So if you like what you hear, definitely pick up a copy. It looks like I've got Jasmine, Kirsten, Aaron. How you guys doing? For the people that are not on TikTok, I'm looking at chats on both sides, so any chat we get, I'll try to respond to them. Yeah, let me fix this chat over here. All right. Okay, so let's get this started. Yeah, just sorting the website out. A never-ending battle. Hi, Marianne. How are you doing? All right, so I'll talk a little bit about this book, Demon's Choice by Jasmine Wallace. I'm going to go ahead and put the primary image up for her. And when the reading comes, I'll take my face out of the equation. That way you guys can focus on the cover and the reading. This book, the excerpt that I'm going to be reading, is from chapter 3. And I read it earlier today just to try and have as few fumbles as possible. Unfortunately, I think today is going to be one of those days where my eyes are just kind of all over the place. So I'll do the best that I can. But the chapter that I did read was very excellent. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, and being chapter 3, and then given the context on the blurb that I was provided that's on the website, I'm curious to see where the rest of the book goes. So, we'll dive right into this one. I'll get myself out of it. I'm going to pull up the reading here. So once again, this is Demon's Choice by Jasmine Wallace, and I'll be reading from chapter 3. Lena practically skipped across the square after the cafe closed. She had a few hours before her date with Ambrose, and whilst she planned on using most of that time to get ready, she thought she would walk around the town first to try and burn off some of her excitement. Pulling her coat close to her body, she made her way down a side alley to the town's edge. It was only a few minutes' walk from the square, but shortly she came to the gate built into the western wall. She walked through before turning to the right and heading towards the river that ran along the wall. She liked it here. It was quiet, and few people walked through here at this time of day. The path that ran between the river and wall was more suited for morning walks for people with dogs, if at all, as halfway along it rose steeply up the hillside. Small bridges were dotted along the river, despite the fact that it was narrow enough for most people to be able to simply jump across it. Lena noted that the movement of the river had stopped the snow from sticking along its edge, keeping the river stones exposed to the cold winter air. Behind the river was an evergreen forest that expanded up the hill ranges. Its trees stood tall and proud against the evening mist that was starting to descend. She liked to walk along the forest edge, but rarely ventured within it, especially not when the mist made it impossible to see more than 2 meters of ground in front of you. Jumping over the river, she smiled at the crunch of the stones beneath her boots. Regardless of the cold in her apartment getting the best of her most days, she loved the winter. The smell of moisture on the air, the cold biting at her cheeks, giving her more color in them than she had naturally, and the soft quiet afforded by the layers of snow. She had never seen snow until she moved to the town, but she had instantly fallen for its magical qualities. Taking in the stillness of the forest, Lena walked up the hill towards a small lookout she had found 2 years ago. From there, she could look over the town all the way down to the train station at the bottom of the valley. Panting against the cold air, she welcomed the burning of her lungs. The exertion warmed her body, although she made sure to keep her coat on as she reached her destination. There was a metal bench at the lookout, and she gratefully sat upon it, after brushing off the snow, letting her legs rest. From here, she could see the roofline of Ambrose's manor. Even though her heart was racing from the climb, she was elated. She knew the smile that had been on her face since Ambrose asked her out had not left her face for the remainder of the afternoon. Since moving to the town, she had not formed any relationships with anyone that could have developed into anything romantic. Sarah had set her up with Michael a few months after she started at the cafe, but they mutually agreed that there was no compatibility there. She had started to think she would spend the rest of her life single, and she had been fine with that. She liked her solitude, and the ability to do what she wanted when she wanted, without having to worry about someone else. That all changed when she met Ambrose. The rumors that surrounded him had been intriguing, but she had mostly ignored them. She had wanted to be ignored when she moved to the town, so she felt inclined to provide him with the same courtesy. The first time he came into the cafe, she almost dropped the tray she had been holding. He was gorgeous, and he'd been staring right at her. Her breath had caught in her throat as she felt a magnetic pull towards him. Her mind had instantly thought of what it would be like to feel his arms around her, his lips on hers. She knew who she was, and she couldn't fathom why he would be looking at her so intently. But it made her stomach flip with excitement. At the time, she had practically run into the kitchen, trying to hide her embarrassment at her reaction to him. Michael had looked at her confused as she hid in the staff closet briefly. After gathering herself, she had made her way back into the cafe and was disappointed to note that he had left. It was a few days after that he had returned and took up residence at his favorite table. At first, they had exchanged small talk here and there, but nothing much beyond that. Lena thought there was an attraction between them, but she always put it down to simple flirtations to entice good service, not something that would or could develop further. Then he started coming more frequently, and the flirtations increased. His visits to the cafe had become a highlight of her day, to the point she often found herself wandering by his manor on days he didn't visit, wondering if he was okay. She was also certain that on days she wasn't working, she had spied him following her, watching her as she walked through town. With her breathing returning to normal, she stood up and bounced on the spot for a moment, giggling to herself in excitement. She turned to make her way back down the hill, but paused briefly, looking into the woods. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end as she had the sudden feeling that she was being watched. She shook her head, murmuring to herself that she was being ridiculous, and stepped onto the path. She still had a couple of hours before the date, so she wanted to head back to her apartment to start getting ready. Having barely taken a few steps down the path, her stomach dropped as she heard footsteps behind her. She turned her head slightly, but before she could see who it was, a hand with a rag or napkin in it covered her mouth and nose. Crying out, she tried to push the hand away, but within moments her world went dark. There's a little break. She was late. Ambrose looked at his watch again as he sat at the restaurant. Well, not late. Not yet. It was still a few minutes to 8. To his surprise, he arrived almost 20 minutes early, eager to see Lena again. He had already ordered a bottle of wine for them and sipped slowly on his own glass as he waited for her. Any time the bell over the door rang, he raised his head in expectation, and, to his chagrin, had been disappointed every time. He sighed heavily as he looked out the window at the street. It had been decades since he last went on a date with a human, and back then they met at dances, or he would collect them from their home, so only his punctuality had ever mattered. But then, he never remembered being as excited to see someone as he was Lena. He would happily give her the grace of waiting another 15 minutes, considering a fresh layer of snow was, yet again, starting to fall outside. "Can I get you anything else while she waits, sir?" He looked up dubiously at the waiter who now stood next to the table. Ambrose knew what he wanted, but he doubted the waiter could make her walk through the door. "I'm fine, thank you," he replied, turning back to the window. The waiter walked off quietly, leaving him once again to his thoughts. He didn't think there would be any reason Lena would not come. He was sure she liked him, and when he asked, her face had lit up with the most adorable smile. He rolled his eyes at himself. "You're a demon, Ambrose," he reminded himself. But there was no denying it. He had been enchanted by her since he first saw her. The pull he had felt towards her that day had only intensified as time went on. He wanted to get to know her, more than just the side she showed within the cafe. He knew there was more to her than a simple waitress. There was a deep intelligence in her eyes that was beyond intriguing, suggesting a breadth of life experience more suited to someone twice her age. Her beauty was simple yet elegant and always unassuming. Unlike most women her age, now she didn't try to overstate her features with too much makeup. Having lived through many a fashionable era, from the French Revolution to Victorian delicacy to 50s glamour, regardless of the progressions in feminine identity those eras were responsible for, he found natural beauty more enticing than anything. He looked at his watch again, noting she was now indeed late. Suddenly he felt the familiar pull of a summoning. Sighing in annoyance, he realized, dejectedly, that he was going to miss dinner with Lena. Of course, she was already late, but only by a couple of minutes. He doubted she would wait the 2 hours it would take for him to revert to human form after this. Quickly, he got to his feet and threw some money down on the table. He walked out of the restaurant as quickly as he could, voicing his apologies to the host as he went, and making a quick dash into an empty alley. Accepting the inevitability of the summoning, Ambrose made a mental note to take flowers the next time he went to Café Marie. He could foresee lots of apologizing in his near future. Flames covered his body as he was forced to transform into his demonic self. Over the years, he had become accustomed to the pain as his horns broke through his skin and his limbs stretched and lengthened. His nails extended into talons, and his skin darkened as the flames licked over his body. His clothes burned away and were replaced with his usual chosen attire for such events. As the flames dissipated, he noted that he had been brought to an abandoned warehouse somewhere downtown in the city. He raised his brows, surveying his surroundings. The building was dark, except for some lamps that had been set up in the four corners, but to avoid detection, black paint had been splattered on the windows, stopping the light from reaching outside. Overall, the room wasn't very large, seemingly more suited for small-scale production, with the floor space being less than 10 meters, wall to wall. Summoning runes had been painted on the floor with the sacrifice's blood. White ash, cat bones, and offcuts of the flower immortelle had been placed in a circle around the makeshift pyre, made from pallets and black fabric. 3 men stood in awestruck shock near the pyre. Ambrose froze as he took in the view of the pyre. Ice washed through his limbs, and his breath caught in his throat as he looked over the woman atop it. Her wrists had been slit, fastened to the pyre by strips of fabric, and positioned above 2 bowls that now held her lifeblood. His body shuddered as he recognized her face, her dove-gray eyes staring at him blankly, dulled by death. Lena. All right. Excellent chapter. Let me get my webcam back up here. Oh, man, I missed a whole lot of chat. All right, sorry about that. I hope you guys enjoyed the read. Send some messages if you like. I'm going to catch up to the chat here on TikTok. Yes, the cover. I like the cover a lot. Hey, Megan, how you doing? Amber, how you doing? Thank you. It is an amazing cliffhanger, and for being only chapter 3, Jasmine, it really draws me in. I really want to know what happens next, especially looking at the blurb, and you kind of give the implication on the blurb that Lena is a main character, if not the main character. So I'm very interested to see where it goes. But yeah, so Demon's Choice here. Demon's Choice by Jasmine Wallace. I'll bring up my website once again. I do have the page up there. And just a reminder that if you liked what you heard, October 30th and 31st, Demon's Choice is free on Kindle. So you can either pick up a copy now or wait for it to go free, but I highly encourage you to pick that up just off that chapter alone. That was just an excellent, excellent read. So, yeah, please click the link up here. Click the link up here, Jasmine Wallace. That will take you to all of her social media, all of her web pages, so on and so forth. And if you click on the title here, that'll take you to the Amazon page where you can purchase her book. So 100% encouraged. I loved reading that chapter. It was very fun, very engaging, and it leaves you on just that cliffhanger that makes you want to read more. So please do go pick up a copy. All right, since Jasmine is in the chat, if you guys have any questions, please fire away. I'm going to move on to the next book in here. I'll switch the covers over here. And this one's Remnant. I told you today is a day apparently that I can't I can't talk. So I apologize for fumbling the few times that I did in the last reading. But yeah, so Remnant will be the next one that we're reading from K.R. Solberg. She is also in the chat, if I remember correctly. And I again did a pre-reading before this to check and make sure I get the pronunciations correct. If I get them wrong, I deeply apologize. But I did check with Kirsten on some of them to make sure that I get them correct. We'll see how that goes. There were a couple words I missed, and I had to go to Google for it. So fortunately, that was there. But the read is very engaging. I really like it. Both the reads this week, last week, I'm just blown away by the amount of talent in the writers that have been submitting here so far. It makes me look at my own work, wondering what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, so quick talk about this. I'm going to be reading. She sent me chapter 1 to 3, and I picked an excerpt from chapter 1 that I thought had an interesting kind of send to it. Hopefully I do it some justice. I definitely do fumble a little bit here and there, especially today, so I apologize in advance for that. But I'm excited to get into it. So if there are no questions, I'll dive right into it. Let me get my my ugly mug out of the way there. And again, to remind you that this is from Chapter 1. This chapter is titled Death of an Immortal, and it's got a location and date tag. I'll go over that right now. So the location is the Temple of Ice in southern Corrigan. The date is May 7th, 1189 PT, which stands for Post-Tyrannus. And the point of view in this chapter is Mavel, a collector. So, I'm kind of jumping in about a little less than halfway through the chapter, so we'll dive right into it. Detoa returned with the witness, who shuffled into the room with her neck drooping. As they approached the veiled man, the girl held fast to Detoa's arm. Placing 2 spindly fingers under her chin, the veiled man raised her head. "Show me what you have seen, child." He lifted his veil. For a moment, the girl's eyes widened, their light returning. She trembled with her mouth agape. When the veiled man dropped his covering, the girl resumed her limp posture. "It seems our killer is plagued by a small conscience," the veiled man said. "He spared the woman and her child." "Killer?" Detoa said. "A single killer?" "There was an accomplice. Both, I believe, were relenta, but most of the killing was done by one man." "How is that impossible?" drawled a voice from the doorway. Mavel's teeth clenched when Salvatore Kane, a dark-haired boy in an embroidered purple justauquois and polished boots, strode into the room. Not really a boy, just a monster in the skin of a boy. "How indeed, Lord of the Veil?" Sel approached, crossing his arms like a parent waiting for a child to explain his misbehavior. The veiled man snorted. "Are you not the Lord of Whispers, Salvatore? Did you come to be of help, or to act as your revered father's errand boy again?" Sel bristled, but his voice remained steady. "I am simply here for the child. Young Hauna has a latent foresight, so for your sake, I hope you did not harm her." "Indeed not," the veiled man said. "I have lifted the burden of this horrific event from her mind. She will henceforth have no memory of it. So, if anything, I have helped her." Sel narrowed his eyes. "And what have you done with that burden?" The veiled man tapped his temple. "It is safe and waiting for his lordship to witness for himself." "Then I shall take you to Lord Refsul immediately. I will meet you on the Wraith Gate." Sel took Hauna's hand and escorted her through the door. Once again, the veiled man stood silent and still. Once again, his servants waited, just as silent, just as still. Only Hauna's footsteps echoed down the stone corridor. At last, the veiled man faced Marvell. "We shall speak in private, Collector." Marvell nodded, calling his shades to cloak them. Wisps whirled like smoke from an extinguished candle, encasing them in a soundproof cocoon of darkness. "I am giving you a secret mission, Collector. Find this god-killer. Dead or alive. Oh, trust me, young hunter. You and any mortal in all the Drolin ranks are no match for this creature. He is Mortari, a shard keeper, a reincarnation of Agroth. You will find him alive, and you will leave him alone." The words Mortari and Agroth swirled in Mavel's mind. They sounded familiar, but he nodded rather than risking ignorance before his master. "You will tell no one what I show you, Collector, other than your partner. There are pieces of the child's memory only you and I will see. Not even Lord Refsul himself will know the nature of this adversary. Do you understand?" "Yes, my lord." His master put 2 fingers under Mavel's chin and lifted his own veil, revealing a pair of solid, white eyes. A vision of this room before the present gore flooded Mavel's mind. He was crouched behind a pillar, near the dais. No, not crouched. Beneath him, Hana's face reflected in a water basin. Hoven, in all his obese glory, reclined on his golden throne. A red-haired woman of immense beauty, Tessa, the oracle, stood rigidly at his side. Her perfection was only tarnished by the look of disgust on her face. "You broke your word," she said. "I am a god, Tessa. I get whatever I want, no matter what deals you try and make. You say someone is coming to kill me. I say let them try." He thrust out his sagging arm and surveyed the guards posted along the walls. "No, you won't be getting anything you want," Tessa said. "Why is that?" Hoven's hand snaked up Tessa's thigh, slipping under the gold fabric of her dress. "I told you. I saw your death." "You lie." "A Foreseer cannot lie." The crystals in the sunrock lanterns extinguished, a shadow falling over the windows like a curtain. Muffled screams erupted while the power of a relentless shades momentarily blinded Hana. A minute later, 15 dead guards lay exactly where Mavel first found them. Tessa struggled to free her wrist from Hoven's fat-handed grip. He grunted and tossed the slender woman. Tessa's head struck the wall, and she fell unconscious and bleeding. Hoven drew a gaudy blade as he barked in horror. In front of him sat the head of the wyvern with 7 human heads skewered on its yellow fangs. Hana's eyes moved toward 2 hooded figures in the middle of the hall. A tall, lanky Relenta held a curved, bloody knife in each hand. Next to him stood the God-Killer. His eyes blazed behind the shadow of his hood. A long, glittering red knife protruded from his sleeve. He stepped forward with preternatural speed, then vanished. After a low, quick buzzing, he reappeared in front of Hoven. He lifted the knife and... Hana buried her face in her arms. When Hoven's laughter filled the room, she lifted her head, eyes widening. Hoven clenched the God-Killer's forearm, fending off the knife. "So glad we're all enjoying ourselves," the accomplice said. With overwhelming strength, the God-Killer thrust the knife forward, and Hoven's cries erupted. A red glow filled the room, intensifying with Hoven's screams, followed by silence. Enveloped in darkness, Hana wept. When Mavel resumed reality, he was lying on the floor. His shades no longer cloaked him, having lost connection with their master. Detoa's hands rested on his shoulders, but she jumped when he shook her off and glared. As Mavel rose, his legs quaking, the veiled man leaned closer. "Find him, and when you do, don't let him know. Report to me, and me alone." Brushing a greasy yellow lock off his forehead with a bloody glove, Mavel bowed. The veiled man faced the throne. "He won't be missed." Slowly and silently, he walked out of the room. Mavel watched until his master was out of sight, then whispered to Detoa. "That's probably true of most immortals." As they left together, they passed through the atrium garden, along the mid-level balcony. Sel and Hana came into view beside a fountain on the ground floor. The collectors slipped between 2 planters at the edge of the balcony and listened through the power of Mavel's shade. "I have a gift for you from your mother." Sel draped a gold chain with a pendant over the child's neck. The girl squealed nervously as she clutched it. "Now we shall return to Shivak," Sel said. "Lord Sel, what about my mother?" Hana sounded rather mature for one so young, but being a Drawlin harem child often meant growing up quickly. "The Oracle will recover." The immortal tucked Hana's blonde hair behind her ears. "You'll be mine someday when you're old enough and have come into your Relenta power. Then no one will touch you. No one but me." Detoa scoffed. Mavel pulled back his shade as Sel, the eternal child of shadow, led his unsuspecting charge through the glass doors into the courtyard. The 2 collectors moved along the balcony for a closer view below. In the courtyard, the veiled man occupied the octagonal platform of the race gate. Cell ascended the 8 steps, holding Hana's hand. 3 bronze rings rotated within the gutters upon the Wraith Gate, and 8 bronze poles rose from holes at each corner, grinding and spinning against their stone housings. Attaching to each pole, like a net, a fog of shadow solidified for a second before vanishing, along with the 3 people. The poles sank, disappearing beneath the intricately carved platform. The bronze rings slowed to a stop. The 2 collectors stared at the empty gate from the balcony. I never thought Salvatore Kane to be a sentimental or a child lover. Wrinkling her nose, Detoa picked at a blotch of dried blood on her sleeve. He's neither. Mavel leaned against the railing. He's grooming her for a convenient binding. He'll be quite disappointed when he finds out she doesn't have a shred of Relenta power. Too bad for the girl. Cell is a wolf among wolves. How can you know she has no shadecraft when she's only 5? He pointed to his forehead. I've seen through her eyes. By the way, what do you recall about the name Agaroth? Detoa stared, her brows wrinkling. Agroth. Man or immortal? You tell me. I think... something to do with the fires. Or maybe the Devourer? He licked his crooked teeth. Ah, yes. The ancient Terrian king who was given the power of absolute death by Sovereign. When he died, priests divided his power among his warriors to continue fighting the Devourer. They were called the Order of Mortari, weren't they? She asked. Mavel adjusted his scarf. Indeed. Supposedly Agroth reincarnated during the fires and killed the first legion of immortals. Perhaps he's returned. Detoa tapped a finger against her mouth. Perhaps he killed Hoven. The dead remain as they are, Detoa. But the power Agroth wielded was enough to kill countless immortals. That power may indeed live on, and it appears someone has started using it again. Oof. Sorry for the fumbling on that one, but that's the end of chapter 1. I read from the midway point to the end, and I loved the world building in that. The characters' voices really come through on the dialogue, and it's just really well done. Let me pull my webcam back up here. Both Kirsten and Jasmine really did a great job. And again, I apologize for fumbling through it at parts. It's just one of those days. But still, I hope that didn't deter you from just how incredible the writing was. I mean, even just like the little bits of magic that it showed, the world building, and just even kind of the background and history that they give. It's just enough to really draw you in. And I always like a good first chapter that can kind of build you in and kind of make you feel accepted into the world a little bit. So I'm excited to see how that goes. I mean, anything where you've got somebody named a god killer is going to be exciting, I think. All right, let me get back over to the chat over here. My dyslexia could never. I feel like I'm still stumbling more than I probably should, but it's still very excellent. And I think that the well-writtenness of it just really makes it easier. So again, Remnant is not quite out yet. Comes out January 4th, 2024, right here. You can see that on my website, but there is a link here to the author's webpage that she sent me, as well as a blurb of the story if you're at all curious. And I highly encourage you, for both authors that we read tonight, to go check them out. And Kirsten says that ARCs are open, so if you want to reach out to her over her website, find her on her social media. I don't know how she's doing her ARCs, but please, by all means, reach out. If she's still got ARCs open, try to support however you can. But like I said, I mean, just the writing in general by both of these authors and the authors we had last week is just mind-boggling. And I've kind of read a couple weeks ahead just to make sure that, there's nothing in there that TikTok might slap my wrist for. And it's just incredible. I cannot wait to get through all of this stuff, and this is just such an exciting thing. So yeah, please go out and support these authors. Purchase a book, follow them on social media, like and share their content, anything you can do, within your means, please, absolutely. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for allowing me to read these pieces, and I really hope that other people enjoyed it, and I really hope that I can help interest some new readers into your books, even just get more followers if I can. Anything I can do to help. Yeah, absolutely. No, seriously, thank you guys. This is great work. So I don't know. We got a few more minutes left. If anybody's got any questions for any of the authors, please, by all means, reach out to the chat. I know I keep looking down over here. That's kind of how my chat function's working now since I'm on Live Studio. And let me check and see if we've got any comments or anything from YouTube or Twitter. I'm still relatively new to this, so I don't know if I actually see them coming through or if they end up getting stuck on the app itself. But yeah. Let's see who we got. All right, yeah, like I said, anybody have any questions, by all means, reach out to the authors on their sites. Feel free to ask in the chat here. Start a little bit of dialogue. Let's try and get this going. Try and support as much as possible. And I know that I'm going to be picking up a copy of Demon's Choice on October 30th, and definitely Remnant when it comes out. I'm so intrigued by the world that oh, and she's got a co-author too. Let me drop that. So for Kirsten and her co-writer C.R. Jacobson, just the world that those two have built is just super intriguing, and it really just makes me want to learn a little bit more. Kind of puts whatever I'm doing to shame, and yeah, I just want to read and see if I can't draw some inspiration. It's just both of you guys really well done. Sorry, I'm just looking over at the two websites. I see Jasmine saying, "Yep, it does work as part of a series, but each book could be read as a standalone." And I'm looking at Kirsten's website right now. It looks like Remnant is part of a 4-book series, which is just really awesome. Let me look. I can't remember. I think yeah, Demons of the Apocalypse series, book 1 is what she's got here. So I'm going to bring the promo back up so we can see both books. And put myself down here a little bit smaller. Okay. Yeah, I'm having way too much stupid fun with a TikTok live studio. Yeah. I'm appreciative for everybody that's coming out and supporting these authors, and I know the authors are super appreciative of everybody coming out and hearing these little excerpts that I'm reading. It's not much, but if I can help increase a follower count or bring some more attention to their web pages, help them sell a book or anything like that, I'm very happy to do so. And again, very happy to be helping these authors and be trusted to read this stuff live to anybody that's willing to listen. So let's see, we got some chats going on in the comments section, so I'm just going to kind of let that go. And yeah, so again, I don't want to cross paths with between the pages. I like to kind of give a little bit of breath there, since really that's where this whole inspiration started, was Sean Amick doing his little readings prior to his live interviews. And I just thought it was a great idea, so I thought I'd try to help expand upon that. And from that, I think that we actually have a couple other people. I think Jasmine also offered to do some live readings or some readings of other authors' work as well. And there's been at least 2 other people that I've seen doing it. And I think it's just great. I love seeing this TikTok community of authors kind of coming together and helping each other out just as much as possible. So really, guys, thank you. And I am going to end this out here. I hope you guys enjoyed the readings. Please visit my website. I'll embed this video on that page at some point once I figure that out. Hopefully it won't take too long. But either way, the live video does save to my YouTube, so you can go back and view every live. I'm going to be making another recording from last week's that, prior to me having this whole setup. I'm going to try and help those authors out by re-recording the excerpts that I read from them in a similar kind of fashion with the background and all, and upload a video to YouTube so that I can embed it on their page as well. So yeah, for anybody who's sticking around to go to Between the Pages with Sean Amick, by all means, go help support some other indie authors who are doing their live interviews. And other than that, have a good night, guys. Thank you for coming. Absolutely, yeah. If you need me to send, for either of the authors, if you would like me to download the clip and cut it up into your sections to send it to you so you can share bits and pieces of it on your social media, I'm more than happy to do it. Just follow up on the email that you sent me with the author live reading and let me know if you'd like that. Other than that, I'll embed the entire thing just on the top or bottom of the page so that anybody who wants to view it can go do so. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. That was good.